Hello friends, and welcome to Figure Study, and also welcome back to NemeSeptember. Today I'm taking a look at a figure that I wanted to get my hands on for a very long time, then got my hands on probably over a year ago, and am just now finally getting to talk about, because I took my sweet time basically. And that, for those who are unfamiliar with this figure, is the MakeToys Cross-Dimension MTCD-03SP Thunder Erebus. This is essentially the MakeToys Cross-Dimension take on a Nemesis-flavored Super Jinrai, or Nemesis-flavored Powermaster Optimus Prime, however you want to look at it. And this is a very cool figure, a very cool set, and it's going to take a while to get through, so let's just get started. Starting with this little not quite Powermaster dude, and this guy is tiny. He's not quite Titan Master size, but he's down there. Okay, I lied and was wrong, because I just plucked Chrome Dome's Titan Master off the shelf, and they are roughly the same height. This guy is ever so slightly shorter, but also way more detailed, painted a lot better. This guy is very small, but he looks really neat. There's actually this is kind of a neat look to this suit thing. Posability is not too bad either for what it's, for the size. Like, you can move the arms forward. You actually get some outward motion on the shoulders, which is pretty darn cool. No elbows or anything like that, but the joint would be so small. Forward on the leg. Can't really go back because of the big plate there. There is a knee, about 90 degrees of knee. There's a little bit, just a tiny bit of rotation because of that super tiny ball joint. And you get a lot of outward on the legs there. So yeah, pretty neat little dude. And we're going to make him turn into an engine so that we don't have to deal with him anymore. So to do that, we're going to rotate the legs around like this and bend up at the knee, and that will peg into the side of the arm, like so. And do the same on this side, and then flip the little hood thing up, and now he is in his little engine mode, and we'll put that off to the side for now. So now we've got to look at this enormous thing. I think it was Vangelis who said it before, where this alt mode is a little weird in the sense that it's like this sort of regular sized truck cab pulling an absurdly large trailer, just proportionally. And it definitely has that look to it, which is a little bit odd, but it works. It gets the job done. There are options with regards to these bits up here. I think you can rotate them forward for guns. I prefer personally to have them facing up like they're quad smokestacks, but that's just me. And you've also got guns that peg into the sides here, which are not painted, but they're pretty nicely detailed. And there's one pegged in on the other side as well, and they're identical. Put those off to the side for now. And let's start with the trailer. So the trailer is this big, dense, heavy thing, and for what it is, I think it works. And I appreciate there being like 8 wheels on the back. The thing that kind of stinks about this is it's so panely and the colors are so all over the place. I totally understand why, because, how this thing transforms, what it's supposed to do. There's a lot of stuff crammed in there, and if this was all one color, or if it was more kind of evenly matched and painted in different places, it would start to look weird in the bigger robot mode. Though I do think they could have gotten away with, like, some of these panels, the way they fold up, this stuff isn't as visible or visible at all in the big robot mode, so I feel like they could have maybe painted a little bit up here, painted a little bit back here, maybe get some of this kind of grayish gunmetal-y color into some of the black to just kind of integrate the colors a bit, get some black into the grayish bits to integrate the colors a bit. I mean, yeah, the shape is still weird, and you've got this kind of 3-tiered, big, medium, small, kind of stacking looking thing with the shape of the trailer when you're looking at it from the top, but it's a little bit panely. Well, it's a lot bit panely. Though I do appreciate that they managed to get this stripe going all the way across And while it is broken up because of the way this panel connects here, like severely broken up, it still carries the shape all the way through with that paint scheme. You get a little bit of detail on the back here, but it's not the best looking trailer compared to most trailers. Again, for what it does, I think it's fine. And then we get our tiny little truck cab, little bitty Nemesis truck, and it's cute, and it gets the job done. And I appreciate the detailing and color that goes in here, specifically the color, because the detailing, a lot of this is just kind of like molded for the sake of the mechanics. Like, there's no real interesting detailing going on here. The tires have a little bit of texture, and that's more or less it. The rest of this, the rest of back here is all for robot mode, but the cab itself looks alright, and I appreciate the silver going around and those really nice blood red windows. They are painted on the sides, whereas they're translucent red plastic over, I think, maybe silver on the front. But the color match is reasonably close, at least. It's definitely not spot on, but it's close enough. And then he also has the silver smokestacks. Not too bad. And then you can plug this engine fellow into the front there. You don't need to do it for transformation, it's purely cosmetic, but it's cool that you can do it. One thing that kind of stinks with mine is the mechanism here is a little bit stuck. You can kind of see too that this fender is a little bit warped. It just kind of came like that out of the box, there's not much I can do about it. And this thing recesses into the cab, but it gets stuck, so it'll recess, but then I can't get it back out. And I've seen that there are ways to like do it with folding the bumper around, but that just doesn't work. The only way for me to get it back is to kind of force it back up from underneath and just push it up like that. Anyway, this will attach to the tabs there, slots there, and it holds pretty well, especially when you get it fully pegged in. But as you can see, it doesn't quite, because of the way that that thing doesn't quite line up properly, it can be a little bit tricky to get in place. There we go. Now he's got the giant engine. And that is gonna do it for the vehicle mode. Like I said, there's a lot to talk about with this guy, and I feel like I'm already taking too long, so let's get straight to those size comparisons. Here he is with the usual deluxes, and as you can see, the cab itself is extremely tiny when compared to a deluxe, but the figure, if you factor in the trailer as well, is pretty darn big. And here he is with the duck tank. Okay, so because, once again, there's a lot to this guy, I'm just going to move the trailer off to the side for now, and we're going to focus on just the cab. Like I said, you do not need to plug the engine in for the cab. This is purely for cosmetics, but I'm going to leave this guy plugged in. So let's transform this little guy. Here we have the tiny little, I guess this would count as a Jinrai, but Nemesis, and he's so tiny. Well, not so tiny, he's not as tiny as the engine fellow who's still plugged into his back there, but he is definitely small. I know there are different ways to configure the backpack. Again, Vangelis mentioned it in his video, but you can slide it down, which doesn't have that unsightliness behind the head, but then that gets in the way of the waist rotation, and if you hinge it up, then you get full waist rotation, but now he's got this thing kind of awkwardly hanging out behind his head. It's a trade-off, but this little fellow is actually pretty neat for what he is. He's a little bit fiddly in places, and some of that might just be that I need to tighten up some of the joints. I don't know if it's because this was just like a figure that was sitting in a warehouse or something, but there's a little bit of adjustments needed here and there. Overall, very cool. I like the detailing that they have going on here with the kind of implication of the shin vents. Just a little bit of color in the knees, just because, and then also some gold in the pelvis and the kind of standard Optimus Prime underwear shape. He has his little belly grill though it's not picked out in any kind of color. I guess it makes sense because if they had painted it silver, it would kind of blend into what's going on in his sides there, but it's a little weird having the grille just be black. I love the blood red windows on the chest, though. They also got a little bit of that red color that they used for the windows here in the shoulders, just to break it up a little bit. So I like how the color is broken up in the body. Probably done with a little bit more in the forearms, maybe a little bit in the shins, but this guy is tiny, and he's definitely not the main attraction of the set, so just putting that out there would have been nice, but definitely not essential. And the head is a teeny tiny Optimus Prime head. This is adorable and pretty well detailed. Hits all the right notes. It's got the two little ears. He's got that notable head crest, though the head crest isn't painted, but the face is, along with that faceplate, and he does have two little blue eyes. I kind of feel like maybe those should have been red, but I think this is, what is it, Nucleon Quest? That thing where it's like not a Nemesis so much as a black repaint. So it's not necessarily evil, but maybe he is. I don't really know what the cross-dimension fiction is, but I like him, and I don't even mind having the plank behind his head. As for articulation, the head is on a teeny tiny ball joint, so you do get some tilt, some up, and a little bit of down, mostly up, and of course the rotation. The arms can go up a little ways on this joint, but only so far, then they stop. But then out here, you can go a little past T-pose. The shoulders can rotate around, though it's a little bit tricky with stuff going on up here, but it does work. You also get bicep rotation. There's a well past 90-degree elbow bend because the way this thing transforms, and then you can rotate the front half of the forearm, so it gives you what amounts to a wrist rotation. When this plank is up above his head, you get, move these out of the way, you get like a full 360 rotation on the waist. The wheels are movable mostly so that you can do outward motion on the hips, which goes pretty darn well. Legs can go forward definitely past 90 and back barely any distance. Oh, I see. It's because the way they're attached more towards the front, which is what allows them to swing up so far, but it prevents them from being able to swing back very far. There is a thigh rotation and a very, very nice knee. I think it's a single joint, but it's cut in a way that allows it to bend really far back, so that's really cool. And then for the feet, you can go back a little ways, forward a lot of ways, and then you can kind of use the cut for the transformation as an ankle rocker. So he's pretty reasonably posable. And I'm just going to do this with one of the guns, but the big guns actually are hiding little guns in them. So you can slide those out of the top, peg those into his hands, and now he's got his own little adorable bit of ordnance that he can use to threaten much larger bots with. Alright, move him to the side and do size comparisons, because why not? Here he is with the standard-ish deluxes towering over him. And here he is with the duck tank. Okay, little fella, I'm gonna need to take this back and slip that back in place, and you can see how there are these slots on the top here. You just kind of line everything up and peg it in place, and now it's like one big gun again. And this guy we are going to turn back into a truck cab. So, okay, we have not entirely gone back into truck mode because we are prepping this guy for the full combined mode. So, what we are going to do, actually these should have stayed flipped into the feet position. The main differences between the truck cab for this regular truck cab mode and the combination is you basically just want to fold these panels back and fold up the feet, and that's pretty much it. So to transform this guy into his cube, we're just going to do it because it's like 2 steps. You need to flip the feet all the way forward, and there are some slots inside here that these little tabs here will peg into, and you want to bend the knees backwards and peg that into place. And that makes a solid little truck cab box. And that's all we're going to do with that. Now we bring this giant thing in, and let's see how this goes. And here we have MakeToys Thunder Erebus in his fully combined mode, and this is super cool. He's like a very beefy Powermaster Optimus Prime in Nemesis colors, as we've established. I love how he just looks like a intimidatingly beefy, Nemesis-y Powermaster Prime. And again, he's probably, now that I'm looking at him, not actually Nemesis. I think, again, it was Nucleon Quest that they had this color scheme for not Powermaster Optimus Prime, not Super Jinrai, but definitely has kind of that color scheme, the red for the windows. Though I think the windows for the regular, like smaller Jinrai were blue, right? So maybe this is supposed to be a Nemesis? I don't know. I'm going way beyond my area of expertise here. But this figure looks amazing. I love the proportions, how he's just this big, chunky robot in all the right places, where like he's got the skinnier thighs, skinnier waist, skinnier biceps, but like the big chunky shoulders, big chunky torso, and enormously chunky legs. He's got that kind of Mega Man boot thing going on. And a decent amount of detailing too. Like there is kibble on this guy, but not a whole lot, really. You've just got a couple of flaps on the back, which actually compact very nicely. And these flaps on the sides of the legs, which again, they compact fairly nicely, and they do a good job of getting out of the way. So like if you need to use the ankle tilt, which we'll get into a little bit more later, it gets out of the way. If you bring it up, because this doesn't peg in, it just kind of can get nudged out of the way. And it's like, it doesn't peg, but it's a nice friction joint. You can see it's not going to fall down. Detailing wise, the backs of the cab fold up pretty nicely to make toes, and the wheels do a pretty good job of getting out of the way, I think. I like what's going on in the shins here, how you've got what looks like kind of exposed piston detail with some of that metallic-y blue right around the outside, a little bit of gold in the knees and a little bit of that blue in the thighs. Then there's some gold in the pelvis section, some kind of gunmetal-ish on the skirt flaps. The truck cab, which we've already seen, but then blue around the outside there, and then you get a little bit more of that blood red and these little like shoulder lights that are incorporated just for the combined mode head. Now you also see a little bit more of this silver detail, which we saw in the trailer mode a little bit better. It's not much, but I like how there's just these silver stripes going around there, a little bit of gunmetal right here, and I like this because this does a pretty good job of not quite matching the gray of the shoulder guns. So it kind of looks like these are built into the shoulder a little bit. That's a cool touch. And a little bit of that detailing on the forearms as well. And these weird little backwards missile things on the inner forearm that were in the trailer. Pretty nice detailing all around, and also some detailing on the backs. Don't want to forget that. There's a little bit of silver and the backs of the calves. And for some reason, a little bit of red down here. Don't really know why that's painted down there, but I'll take it. And the head is pretty darn cool. I like this head a lot. It's kind of like, it's still Optimus Prime in the sense that you've got the ears, the kind of two ears, the sort of similar shaped faceplate, nose and eyes, sort of similar shaped head crest. Then there's all of these beefy extra details that have been added all over the place, like these cylinders along the sides of the head, flaps around the faceplates that add just a little bit more dimension to everything. And it's got just enough color to work, like the silver for the face and the faceplates, and a little bit in that head crest, and then the metallic blue eyes. Which again, I feel like red would probably work a little better. Definitely, I think it would fit with more of like a Nemesis thing, but like I said, this may not be Nemesis. The light blue isn't bad, it's just, it doesn't separate itself out from the silver as much as I think a red would. But then if you had red in here, then it'd be like red, 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 so it might be a little overwhelming with the red, so I don't know. It's a trade-off. As for accessory stuff, it's pretty much everything's incorporated now, so you've got the guns here, which you can angle forward if you want to have him shooting with them. I prefer to have them angled up to do that, you know, Powermaster Prime smokestack, quad smokestack thing. And then the guns can tab onto these tabs on the back here. I don't know if up or down is the preferable way to do it. I kind of like up because it looks like he has extra smokestacks. These do the MakeToys thing, which if you're not familiar with the MakeToys thing, basically instead of a peg system, like say Masterpiece figures, there's like a tiny slot. You can kind of see how this is like this shaped groove on the inside of the palm, where like kind of between the palm and the thumb. And the gun handles have these little grooves built into them, so you just line up the grooves with those channels and slide them in, and now even when the hand's open, they're not gonna, like MakeToys figures that use this system, they will not drop their weapons. Definitely looks like he can dole out some damage when he's got all of his guns going. Okay, let's do articulation. So, the head is on a ball joint, so it does all the things the ball joints do. Turning is a little bit limited because of the shape of the head and the fact that the tiny robot mode feet are sticking out right here, so that things kind of butt into the way. So if you want them to look really far around, you kind of have to tilt the head back and rotate around like that, and it's not great, but you can get plenty, like it's pretty much a 90-degree turn without having to get weird with the head, so I appreciate that. The arms do the full 360 thing. They go way out. Actually, if we rotate that, you can go that high. There is a bicep swivel. There is a really nice bend at the elbow. This arm has the trailer hitch, which can get bumped out of place, but it's not too difficult to just pop back in place. The hands rotate around, and then you get kind of the Masterpiece style. 3 fingers here are on they're like one joint, one pin, and the one finger, the index finger, is its own thing. It only has the one joint. The waist rotates and it ratchets, which is really nice. And it also has a ratcheting ab crunch. This butt skirt can kind of get out of the way. These hip skirts can get out of the way, and these front skirts can get out of the way. And the legs can go backwards that far until it bumps into where the butt flap is joined to the butt, so can't really do much about that. You can go forward to the full 90. It doesn't look like 90 just because his ab crunch, but forward the full 90. Bring that back down. You can go out to almost straight out. The stuff molding in there kind of clashes in there, so you can't go out all the way, but it's close enough. And the knees are a single joint, but it goes pretty far, definitely past 90. That's not a bad amount of curl on the knee, I don't think. There is thigh swivel. Don't want to forget about that. And for the feet, let me get this out of the way. I already kind of showed off how that works, but basically you get a significant amount of ankle tilt. There we go, that's easier. You get a significant amount of ratcheted ankle tilt, and then the foot itself can go forward about that far, and then back. It is hindered by this bit back here, but you can actually fold this out of the way, either like this, or you can hinge it down like this. But basically, the toe can go about that far down, maybe further. Yeah, it can go further if you get the this bit out of the way. For such a bulky, chunky fellow, he is quite posable. Okay, so with all that out of the way, size comparison time. Here he is with the usual deluxes, and he is just a monster compared to them. Not just because he's about twice as tall as a deluxe, but he's also significantly more bulky. Granted, virtually all of that was in the trailer. Like, pretty much the only thing on this that was not the trailer is just this little box in his chest there, but still, he's a decently sized, very imposing figure. And just for fun, here he is with a Titan Master. This is really funny to me. And let's move him in a little bit more. And last but never least, here he is with the Duck Tank. And that will do it for MakeToys Thunder Erebus. I am not disappointed in this guy in the slightest. And that's one of those things you can never quite be sure when it comes to these types of figures, especially when it's like a year or two after they've come out. Everyone else has kind of had their say, and it's one of those things you've built up in your mind. You're kind of like, oh, I really think this is going to be awesome, but then if I get it, it might end up being a little disappointing. And yeah, no, this guy, there are a couple of very minor QC things that are a slight disappointment with this guy, like the slightly misshapen fender and the fact that the spring-loaded thing for the little Powermaster guy doesn't really pop in and out like it's supposed to. But I can't complain really about this guy because he is absolutely fantastic. He looks great. I've said this before, but I love the cross-dimension aesthetic that MakeToys has done, and I'm really hoping that they make good on that Galvatron that they showed off, because I don't give a crap about Galvatron, but a cross-dimension Galvatron, yes, I will take that. Anyway, that is enough rambling from me. I'm sorry. Thank you everybody for watching. Whatever your thoughts on Thunder Erebus, Thunder Manus, Divine Shooter, any of the MakeToys cross-dimension stuff. Also, whether or not this guy is supposed to be a Nemesis or that weird reference from Nucleon Quest, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. As usual, art is more than meets the eye, and for our next video, we're not technically sticking with MakeToys and not technically sticking with cross-dimension, but we kind of are, but it's kind of a fourth-party thing, but we're gonna be looking at this guy next.